Zoom, you can use that, the cameras in here. But you do have to have. Yeah. To use these, so, only because that's the way they're set up.
Yeah.
Not because like only city employees.
Yeah, oh, because it's WebEx and agreement.
Yeah, yeah, and it has to go through the PC that's here in the room. So then we have.
Probably never saw it.
Minor amount of sleep.
Yes.
Yeah.
$1 billion. Yeah, we have so much money. Wait,
Bernard. If I'm gonna sit under the.
Oh, yeah. Took me wherever. I would happily.
You want somebody?
Can I please in there?
Right up here.
Go over there.
Yeah.
Give me there. No, Lindsay, come here. Yeah, Lindsay.
Well, I was able to see their screen.
No, I think you're prettier. Run away. And Melissa's like, no, I'm not. Get over here. Not even enough to see. Jacket.
Oh, actually, it's a.
Y'all have to switch.
I know. Well, you're coordinating with us too.
Well, I said mine is like
It's a good thing.
on Thursdays. Yeah. Hey, Selena.
Yeah, there's it now. Yeah.
Otherwise, yeah.
Good.
Switching sides.
Yeah, just so I can see the screen because I don't have copies. Sarah, I recommend we switch sides because they're all sitting there and they can see your screen. Oh, no, it's all there.
See you going on any inappropriate websites, I'm gonna say something.
Any websites with an X on it, you know, or much less.
Other than Twitter.
No, I was making a Twitter.
I don't think we have secrets. Not free.
Everybody's got. You know, like.
Well, and I mean, they're gonna be reading what's on the screen, right? I mean,
It's, very hard.
we're good. We try to skip. We're good. Yeah, I was gonna say.
I forgot when.
I'm just playing headphones on.
Wordle.
So it's called Duo Try Wordle, which is. Right.
Just. Are we on her? Still getting our act together.
So I'm ready to share.
Okay, so we thought what we would do today is go over, we did update our 12 and 13 because when we gave it to you the other day, we had that whole section highlighted on the reappointments and hadn't really flushed that out the whole way. So we now have like the full proposal to do that. We also cleaned up a bunch of the little bits that weren't there. So we want to present those to you, 12 and 13. And then after that, we have a counter proposal on the monetary. And then we have to go with that language on 7, 8, 9, and 10 that we thought we would present. Unless you had something you want to do first or in between any of those. Okay. But let's start with 12 and 13. I'll let you.
And Matthew may be chiming in from there. Okay. Everyone see that? There's not much of a lag today. Okay, so on promotions, what we did was, you're gonna see some new language on the reappointment, but as we were going through, we saw some, you know how we changed the formulas, with regard to where education points are actually added to the final score? We found some sections that we had missed that said, those points were gonna be added to the assessment center, so we made corrections like that. So those are the things that you'll see in addition to the reappointment language. This from everything I'm going through remains the same. I'll point out just the modifications to the last proposal that we had. And here's the first one. This one is in regards to the captain field exam, and when we're talking about the written examination and the seniority, we added, or excuse me, education, we changed the language because the original language said that these points would be added only to the assessment center, which is not correct and doesn't follow the formula that we have discussed and put in green so far. So we changed that to show that the education points shall only be added to the final score. And we made those changes as they were consistent throughout the captain field and comm and the commander field and comm. This is a commander field and we made the same change right here. The education point shall only be added to the final score. This is going to be for the captain communications. The education, again, the education points will only be added to the final score. That's consistent with. Same goes for the commander communications. We changed that here. There was some, it was written differently for some reason in this one, so we just did it to, we changed it to reflect and be consistent with the prior language, so that it's not inconsistent with the formula and inconsistent with the rest of the language. And it just says that the education point shall be added to each candidate score. That's the exact sentence that was in the prior 3 sections that we went over. And again, we made that change from assessment center to the final score. On the assessment center process, we did make a change just to update it to the technology that we have now. There's a provision in here that was already in the contract that the assessment sessions shall be videotaped. We went ahead and changed that to video recorded. because the video can be recorded in lots of different ways. I don't know many people that actually use videotape, and we did that down here as well. We changed videotape to video recordings.
Get it on the 8-track.
Yeah. And there was another section where we changed, and I haven't seen it yet, I may have missed it, where we changed the he, she to they. That one should be some.
There were about 8 throughout that still had he/she or his/her that we just changed there. You'll see that throughout. They may or may not be blue. Apparently they are.
There's some here. There was another one that we had to change to they and, that we caught. I don't remember quite where that section was, but it's highlighted in blue. I do know that. Here on section 16, this is the reappointment section of uniform staff. We have taken the language starting with section O and are proposing, instead of fewer than 5 years, we're proposing that reappointments of employees who have less than 2 years, and that should be years with an S, prior time in service with the department, that they shall be placed into the entry level step of the position in which they are placed and shall not retain prior seniority for any purposes under the agreement except as stated in subsection N above. P adds, it changes the 5 to the 2, the proposed 5 to a proposed 2. Reappointments with 2 or more years of service with the department shall be placed in step 2 of the position. And again, they shall not retain seniority for any purposes under this agreement. On Q, reappointments made under a prior meet and confer agreement between the parties meeting the criteria from section P shall be moved to step 2 if it has not already been attained, but shall not gain seniority for any purposes under this agreement except as stated in section N. And again, section N allows for uniform staff who is reappointed to be eligible to take the promotional examinations to the next rank as long as they fulfill all of the requirements. And I believe that those are the modifications that I pointed out to you, with the exception of that one they that I, for some reason, went over, but it's in there somewhere and it's highlighted in. So that is Article 12. Did I miss anything? I don't think I did. I don't think I did. Article 13. Oh, was it up here? Right here. On the pay and seniority for a clinical specialist field or COM hired through the direct hiring process, we have added or proposed that with the exception that should such employee have 2 or more years of similar experience as determined by the chief may, but is not obligated to place such direct hire at a pay rate of a step 2 clinical specialist field of communications. If so placed, such employee shall be considered to have that level of time seniority in that position in the department for purposes of promotional eligibility.
And so for this, we were kind of listening to you on the reappointment versus the hiring concept, looking at police where they have 2 years, not the 10 years or the 4 years, and kind of trying to integrate the 2 concepts together. So kind of look at those jointly, if you would.
Okay. I think that was the only modification on 13.
I believe so.
Please go through it just to make sure. Yes. So that was 12 and 13. And of course, as we've previously done, we'll be forwarding to you the articles that we've presented in Word format. I'll send it to you by email. And now, you want to go to the,
Yeah, so let me just tell you first on wages. You guys have been very, very specific when we started to negotiate that you didn't want a lot of the nonsense, that you wanted us to be upfront with the money that we had and what we were able to negotiate with. So I think you're gonna see less movement than you may be anticipating because we were really at our limit the other day. We are coming up and you can show the summary is probably the best.
that's right here.
Yeah, we appreciate, you guys came down to 33, which absolutely huge movement, really appreciate that. We had been at 30, and you'll see in this proposal, we've moved up to 31. We need you to understand that we are open to working with you on the placement of these. So ignore the 5-year cost, that's for Selena's purposes, and she knows what that's for, but we're still talking the 4-year contract. But we've come up to 31 and we're willing to work with you on the different concepts that you've had and y'all have the costing on how those come out as to how they fit into this. But what we've done here generally is we've taken the pay scale and we've made it so that no one gets less than 4%. Some of those have been higher, so that's been adjusted throughout the pay scale. In conjunction with that, we have put the lump sum back in at 2%, beginning at the beginning of 25. We've taken the same stipends that you utilized with the exception that we've changed the amounts on them. So for PL6, we've moved that to 100 instead of the 200. For the integrated services, we moved that from 175 to 150. And we have left the other one the same since that was already language that was in the contract. So those are what you're gonna find throughout. To make that pay scale work within the monetary authority that we have, there are a few other adjustments within the pay scale. If you wanna go to, and I can tell you generally, and then you can look at it specifically because we went through. It's easiest to show through. Is this the right one, Katie? Okay, yeah, go down a little bit. It's easiest to show, like when you look at, just stop right there. So like clinical specialist at year 13, you'll see that that number moves down to 4. So that will be, if you look at the pay scale itself, you'll see that's moved in conjunction with that. So we kind of went here and worked backwards to the pay scale. So that's probably the easiest way to explain it. Other than that, we did recognize that the division chiefs, you had that on your last proposal to move them to the 42-hour schedule. I think all of our conversations have raised big red flags. And I think we don't want to get into a situation where the chief starts looking at the schedules and then changes those schedules, and that's what we've given you. So in order to not be disingenuous and give you something that may or may not be true in the future, we've taken that concept and we've changed the shift differential for division chiefs up to the 14. So they're getting something, it's just not how you had expressed it in your last iteration because we're just not sure how that's going to play out in the future. I believe that's the only, let me look and see if there's any other significant changes. Pages here. Oh, the other significant change was the pay for the medic coming in. We really believe that if we had it at the 24 that you were recommending, that by the time, early within the contract, within the first month or so, that call takers would be making more than medics again. And we had tried to commit to you that we would do our best to see that that didn't happen. And that's why we've moved that up. So that really shifted a lot of the money around so that we couldn't quite fit in the higher numbers that we had earlier with the proposals. I think those are the significant changes. You'll see they were kind of tweaked around throughout the pay scale to get there. And with that, I want to go through 7, 8, and 9, because some of those are reflected in this and some of them are not, but they're all wage related. Okay, for 7, we've generally accepted the concept that you have. Which will tell you, we've kind of checked around the country and not seen anybody else who has this, so we believe this is a huge move. What we've done, instead of mandating that it happen, is we're absolutely gonna use best efforts. We're gonna use a supervisor on site, which is not something that we typically allow for, to make that determination. You know, obviously, in the EMS service industry, there's a call, there's not a call, it can't happen at that time for obvious reasons, right? So we're letting the onsite supervisor make that call, and we're not allowing it to carry over if they don't get it. So this is, we're gonna do our best, we're gonna try to make this happen, we're willing to commit to it in the contract, but we are leaving it as best efforts, because we really do think this is a breakthrough, bargaining issue for EMS, and I think it's huge. So we'll let you look at that language as we send it to you. I don't know if there's anything else in this section. We did not accept the scheduling change. We know that there's talks offline, we talked before about that not being, the contract not being the appropriate place for the scheduling, and that you're talking separately to the chief about that, so that's, we'll leave that there.
Can I just ask a question about that section? So I know that you know, the department says that the schedules are right now or are within the purview of management rights. Can you just give us an update where those conversations are about moving comm to a 24-hour shift? Because I think in just putting this language, you know, we're hoping for that to see some real movement in that direction. And so I think if we know that we are working towards that, we would feel more comfortable leaving it out. Do you know where we are right now on that?
Yeah, I know that Ty met with the chief probably a month ago. Stopped by my office and mentioned it, and I think you had some suggestions on perhaps a work group within the comm section to start looking at that. In the interim, we have been deep in budget, and a lot of our attention's been there. So the intent was that as we got unraveled from this in the next month or so, that we would be looking forward to a work group put together to look at this for across the conversation.
Didn't y'all do a work group where y'all looked at 24s already? Like, don't y'all have that schedule built?
We do, we already have the schedule created. It was, Bill went back when Hillary Burquest from UT was a consul for EMS. It was all built out. It was shut down by previous administration. It wasn't even looked at, but we have it ready.
I think what we're looking for is just making sure that our process is staff. That, you know, making sure, we've been through some of these exercises before, and what has been presented to us was not actually what many of the members of the staff wanted. So we want to do our due diligence to make sure that we have.
And I did ask Ty to, just because I knew that, you know, the topic would come up, ask where they felt about 24s right now, just the best that we could, and what results did you get?
Everybody's a yes, but
The move to 24s. Okay. So anyway, I do hope that we make some serious movement in that direction, and it sounds like the department is open to it, of course, depending on staffing. Okay.
We recognize that the $5 is already in effect, so that's not a problem. We did not accept the 2 times pay on the callback overtime. And we did not accept the late call pay. And you know, a lot of this had to do with the proposal that you have on the table as well, because there's a lot of monetary issues that you know, we're not closed to, but they're not in the costing model, so we're not going to agree to the language and then not have them in the costing model. So you'll see those kind of in the footnotes throughout, like that if we have that in there, that means Article 8, special leave. Okay, so we have taken your concept here and we believe that we've captured it. We've crafted some language to make sure that they can take it for, if it's an FMLA qualifying event, whether or not it's that individual or their mother, you know, that if it's FMLA qualifying, then they should be able to take the donated leave. And that's whether or not they've taken the FMLA itself. They still have to provide the documentation or, to ensure that it is a qualifying event. And then we still have the guardrail up there of the original hours that were already in there. And then it deletes that donated leave that you had deleted just because that was kind of causing the confusion possibly. So we, take a look at that. We think it does what you're looking to do, and explains it. You can keep going because there's more in that section. So none of this had been accepted on that. Okay, that's it for 8. And as you look at the footnotes, when we send these to you, that one said rejects, as opposed to not in the costing model. So you can kind of see we're willing to work on certain things we really think should be just flat out rejected. So those are marked that way as well. This is, one again that you had on the table, but was not included in your costing model. So we're not opposed to this. It's just something that had not been included. That's the only thing that's originally said. Oh, wait, the leave buyback is in here as well. And we did not accept the leave buyback again.
Because you couldn't fit it into your costing model.
Yeah, was this in your costing model?
It was in ours, but it
Yeah.
was not in.
Yeah, so this did not fit within ours. We tried to prioritize the things which we heard. And again, we are willing to work with you on that type of thing if what we've put in our costing model on the stipends was not, prioritized over this, so. And then the last one is 10. And what we've done on the 10, and I can just state it a little more simply than going through it, is we have agreed to the 500 hours. And we put that in there, but not to the vice president. That still, of course, could happen if the chief approves that time frame, which I actually have no idea his opinion on that, but if it works out operationally.
And I still see the 22, so we'll take the double.
Oh, gosh, yeah, we point that out each time.
Yeah.
Here. Yeah, okay, and I think that's it as far as our proposals. We have all of the TAs ready for you, which we can do at some point during the day on the other issues. There were just a couple of minor tweaks that Selena and I had chatted about offline. In one of them, we had inadvertently left a 48 shift schedule in there that was supposed to be a 42. And the other one was language that y'all had caught in 26, which you were correct on. So they're just minor tweaks. So just wanted to mention those, but we will get all those over to you as well at some point. Any questions on any?
Eugene, why don't you say the dates that would affect that?
Oh, yeah. So 1 and 23 are the only ones that are not currently on the table. And those are literally just the dates on the 4-year. So, and obviously we come to a monetary agreement, those are just slid in there. So there's nothing not on the table at this point. Questions, thoughts on how to proceed?
Let's take a caucus and we'll just text. Get in touch.
Fair enough.
We'll look at these.
You. Roxy, please.
That is a lot of.
That's true.
It is a lot of.